Good evening. This is the Transportation Standing Committee meeting starting at 6:03 or thereabouts. We have a quorum attending. Well, I'll just call for attendance for those here. Would you like to introduce yourself for the first time?
Thank you, Alderwoman Tierney. Madam Chair, for those of you seeing me here for the first time, I am the new Alderman for Ward 5, Brooks Schantelmeyer, and I'm very excited to be part of this Transportation Committee.
Rhonda?
Welcome.
Thank you, Alderwoman.
Yeah, and we have Alderwoman Pindle Charles to my right. And I'm Alderwoman Ellie Tierney, the chair of the committee. I'd like to, before we approve the agenda, I'd like to make a change. There are some items, the small, after conference with Director Nash, she advised me that the planning committee has yet to review the small cell system, and I suspect they have some substantial comments. So I thought it would be best that we wait for their review, and then at our next meeting we'll review the small cell system. I don't think we're holding up anything because it's going to go through pretty extensive process. It's very unique thing, and it affects all zones. So could I have a motion to make that change in the agenda?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to make that change in the agenda.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Could I have a motion to approve the amended agenda?
Madam Chair, I'd make a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Second.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we have an agenda. We have business before committee. First is the meeting minutes from our last meeting, which was July 9th, 2020, and they were attached for our review. Could I have a motion for approval of those meeting minutes prepared by our very own Takia Green?
So moved.
I have to abstain since I was not present at the last meeting.
That was, and it wasn't even meant for a trick question. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Got it. Okay. So noted. We have 4 very patient people that will look for our recommendation today to be on the Transportation Board. Thanks to Hillary, our constituent services, she has worked tirelessly to get a fair representation from pretty much every ward. And because of my foot surgery last month, we weren't able to have a meeting, and I apologize for not getting that in the flow, because they will now go to City Council for approval. But I would like to do them one by one. Takia, none of them are here, or no?
None of them are here.
But one Hillary's here if we have any questions or anything.
One replied and said they would be here, but they're not here.
Okay, and for the record, we have Hillary Rostovich here in attendance. So the first one is Charles Brook. So I've reviewed his resume. I'm very excited about his, his willingness to serve on this board. The board is chaired by Kurt Riegel, and it's taking on a whole new definition as far as supporting transit, which is really, exciting. So can I entertain a motion to approve Charles Brooks for the Transportation Board?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, therefore I motion for a vote to approve Charles Brooks for the Transportation Board. All in agreement, say aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Congratulations to Charles Brooks. The next one is Vince Harriman to the Transportation Board. Can I have a motion to support Vince Harriman to the Transportation Board?
Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Say
Aye.
or say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and we have Jessica Charles Allen. Could I have a motion to recommend Jessica Charles Allen to the Transportation Board?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, having heard done, let's could I? I'm a little rusty here. All in favor of Jessica Charles Allen to the Transportation Board, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, last.
I know her.
We know. Oh, you know Jessica? Yeah,
Yes.
she's really excited and enthusiastic about this as well.
No.
And then Elvia, who, if she gets on this board, we are going to have all electric city vehicles. I don't know. Do you hear me, Elvia? Could I have a motion to approve Elvia Thompson to the Transportation Board?
Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor by a show of hands or aye? Aye.
Aye. We know her too.
Yeah, we do. That's exciting. So that's great. I think that
Very exciting.
and again, thank you so much, Hillary, for this. And I believe now they'll get to the next city council meeting. So we have legislation to review. My colleague Alderwoman Pindle Charles and I have had the had the luxury of reviewing this at the last at what was that? What committee meeting was it?
Public safety.
Public safety, but
Right.
but I do want to go over it today. And Director Gordon is here to intervene if I misspeak. But the first piece of legislation is 028-20, parking permit display. I'm the sponsor of that legislation, and it's very simple. Those in the residential parking district apply for a permit to park on the street, and with that, they get a sticker to put on their car. And SP Plus has the technology to read license plates. They match up the license plate, and so they don't really need to see the sticker. The sticker is basically no use to them. However, the residents have, and with support of the Transportation Board, have asked me to please make the sticker in the code, make it a requirement in the code. It's not to penalize anyone. It's strictly to identify a car that's owned by a resident. So it prevents unfortunate calls to SP Plus on someone that actually is okay to park there. And because the residents are tasked with self-enforcement. We don't have really proactive enforcement of neighborhoods, but if a car is parked and somebody's in front of somebody's, driveway or something, they can say, that person has a sticker. They must be a neighbor and not call SP Plus. So and then also I believe it also shows a bit of ownership with the street. I know that when I go to Washington, D.C., and I'm in a residential neighborhood that has a permit program, I see all those permits and it's like, I don't think I'm supposed to park here, so it's kind of that visual thing anyway. So that's it. Did I summarize that well enough, Director Gordon?
Yes. Good evening, Alderwoman. Yes, you did.
Okay.
Before I say anything, though, I'd like to say congratulations to the new alderman on his appointment, and I wish him well and look forward to working with him. And Alderwoman, you did sum it up quite well. The only addition I would make is it also adds to safety. You have some concerned residents downtown, and they're not only concerned about the extra cars on their streets, but there's an element of safety. So we really don't mind them calling, but by putting the sticker on the car, it permits them to at least a visual to say, well, that's not somebody to be concerned about. I don't have to call. And of course, that allows SP Plus to do some other things. So I think you summed it up quite well.
Okay. So with that, do I have a motion to recommend 028-20, the parking permit display?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion before we vote on it?
I have a quick question then. Would we, by accepting this bill, would we no longer be bothered? Would we only go by stickers for enforcement purposes? We would not do any kind of license plate scanning? No,
that's a good question. They would still do license plate recognition because that's their technology. So it's kind of going back a little old fashioned there, but it's both having a sticker, but SP Plus can still, and that's what they ask you when you do call them. They'll ask you for the license plate number because that's how they match it up.
And Madam Chair, I have one more question. I do apologize. Does this impact? Does the city also issue guest permits for guests, and does this have any impact on those, or is it just going to stay business as usual since it's sticker enforcement?
The guest passes, they get well, it's not a hang tag anymore. It's a piece of paper that they put in their windshield. So those are very visible. If they park as a guest for 1 or 2 or up to three days or so there. So it's not applicable. This is just to the permit holders themselves, which are typically the full-time residents or someone that rents full-time.
Noted.
Okay. All right. Well, hearing none objection, could I have a show of hands for those of us who approve this legislation? Aye. Okay. Aye. So that's approved or recommended. And let's see, next on the agenda is the ordinance. We're skipping over small cell. Oh, the non-motorized wheeled vehicle ordinance. This was initiated by Gavin, but I co-sponsored it with him, and this is just sort of putting under. Well, I'll just reiterate the staff report. Under the current code, a person is actually not allowed to ride or use in a negligent manner any non-motorized wheeled vehicle, and that being scooters, skateboards, primarily skateboards, on a public street, alley, or sidewalk. This revision implies that a person can therefore ride or use a non-motorized wheeled vehicle on a public street, alley, or sidewalk if done in a careful manner. And so the purpose of this ordinance is to simplify the language, to make it clear, and to explicitly identify the kinds of non-motorized wheeled vehicles that are included. And furthermore, this ordinance exempts certain sidewalks or sidewalk areas where there is a sign posted that does prohibit non-motorized wheeled vehicles. So that basically says that a sign supersedes the legislation. If there's a sign up that says no skateboarding or that kind of thing. I know my residents that read this were scared that we were going to introduce scooters, but that's not the objective here. I don't predict that we'll have a scooter program like we had with the ride share. I just don't know if that's conducive to the streets of Annapolis, but I do see them once in a while. I don't see the Segways so much anymore.
I don't either.
So I'll entertain a motion to recommend approval of this of 031-20 non-motorized vehicles on sidewalks.
Moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor of this legislation, say aye.
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 Okay, the legislation passes with unanimous support. Let's see. Oh, my favorite, the last one. Towing. I was joking at public safety that towing was my first piece of legislation. I remember I was so happy. So I have the staff report, but what it does is it clearly lists, it clarifies when a vehicle is subject to towing, and then it itemizes 4 specific reasons that it would be towed, and in the respective code is revised accordingly. It just extends the language by saying this vehicle will be towed. And why is that? Because these particular reasons for towing are life safety, blocking a driveway, hindering access, God forbid if the family had an emergency, or go the other way if an emergency vehicle had to come in. Loading and unloading specifically, that creates a hazard, especially downtown. If somebody's in a loading or unloading, that means the truck that comes is then parking in the middle of the street, which creates a safety issue that no one can pass the street then. And the same with a trailer or trailer type vehicle. And then if somebody is there for more than 48 hours, not a resident, but that seems to happen a lot. So this basically clarifies for SP Plus to make it clear, because towing is a big deal. I mean, it has to be really clear on why they towed. As I said before, SP Plus is not in the business of towing. This is the last, recourse. But when they do so, they want to have a legitimate reason in case there's an appeal or anything like that. Director Gordon, would you like to add anything about what triggered this amendment? I mean, this ordinance, or did I cover it?
Well, you covered it pretty well, actually. This ordinance will strengthen the current code so that we don't continue to see the repeat offenders. I think that's the bigger problem. Yeah. People get a citation for doing this and they'll do it again. And we think by adding the towing element, that should curtail it somewhat.
Yeah, I did get a question from Alderman Payon at Public Safety on whether or not there will be signs to say such a thing. I didn't think that was in our plan to have signs.
It's a possibility. It's something that probably bears a bit more discussion because it would involve public works and some additional costs. So, but it definitely could help matters. Yeah. At the very least, we'll put it on the website, do a press release so that the public knows what's up there.
Or I was thinking like on an existing sign, loading space, they could put a sticker that said towing enforced or something. Well, like that. I don't know.
That's doable. Could take a lot of signs though. That's why I
know. And then in the historic district, there's a question of clutter. So I just thought I'd bring up the question. But I'll tell him that there'll be a press release and all that good stuff. So Alderman Schattelmeyer has a question.
Yes, Madam Chair. I believe I had spoken to you previously about a potential amendment to the bill requesting that any towing done be based in by an Annapolis-based company. But my understanding of our conversations, and I just want to make sure that this is clear before I do any recommendations, this would not be done as like traditionally towing companies operate in like apartment complexes where they're going around actively looking to tow.
No.
This is done as a reaction, or this is done as a reaction only when something is reported.
That's correct.
Okay.
And it's either SP Plus or the Annapolis Police Department that make the coordination. And it's done by towing companies that are within, I believe, a mile or so of the city limits.
Yeah, and they've been approved. Those towing companies have
they've been approved. Yeah.
Okay, so it's still.
I think there's two towing companies. I think there are that we use,
That's
Mr.
correct.
Gordon.
That's correct,
Yeah.
Alderman.
Are they both based in the city, or are any of them based in the county as well?
I believe one is just outside the city limits and one is within the city limits. But I believe
It's like a few feet. I think it's from a few feet from Ward 3. It's not that far. We had a discussion about this, Alderman Schandelmeyer, a couple of years ago. We were trying to do that, but there was, I don't think there was, I don't think there was any towing companies right within the city limits. Both of them, like Mr. Gordon said, are within shouting distance of Ward 3. The other one I think is pretty close as well. But we did have a big discussion about that. Yeah.
The cost for my
do you
concern
know
on
of
that,
any?
the cost for my concern on that is that city county line makes a huge difference in rates allowed to be charged. City rates, I believe the max amount we can charge per night is $165, I believe, versus in the county, it can get up to $360, $365. However, since this is not companies actively looking to tow, the predatory nature that I think is kind of default by some of these companies is not an issue, so I will not offer that potential amendment.
If I may, Alderman, there's always an alternative, booting, but that's something you can discuss with the other officials.
Yeah,
We've been down that road before, I think.
Yeah,
Mr. Gordon, we've done that before, I think.
Yeah.
No comment.
I have a sense our mayor would not support the visual optics of that. But I haven't suggested that. But and to address Alderman Schandelmeyer's concern, the only time I've actually seen proactively tow was when we had when we were building the recovery zones and we had to get the parking spaces cleared. We gave them a lot of notice, and that kind of like a coordinated event thing. When Pastrana comes and does his jump or something, those tow trucks might have to come out and tow cars in the way. But so are there any other, I do want to say that we should roll this out publicly in Espanol as well, because that's very helpful. So do I have a motion to approve 033-20, towing of vehicles?
Before we make a motion to approve, do we need to put into any kind of language on the bill itself that these notices also be given in Spanish, or will that just be when we do the actual notice given, we can get a guarantee from?
Absolutely, yeah. Publicly today, for the record, we don't need to put that in the code. It's sort of a guideline or a policy, and Director Gordon will ensure that the public messaging is bilingual.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. That is my final
question. When our public information officer sends out the press release, we'll make sure, Alderman Schandelmeyer, that is also conveyed.
Excellent. That is my final concern addressed, and I would like to make a motion to give a favorable report.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Ordinance is approved unanimously, recommended unanimously. Last item on the agenda is an update from the Transportation Board. They are, I guess Kurt couldn't make it today. I did attend the last Transportation Board meeting. Reviewing a resolution that they in fact drafted on addressing autonomous vehicles, to make sure that if we ever implement autonomous vehicles that we have rules and regulations, because that they can apparently get out of hand or something, but they talked about that, and then they're very supportive of the sticker ordinance. I can't think of anything else pressing with them. Rick, did you attend the last meeting as well? I know that Tom Reek is a member, an at-large member is moving, so they will have a vacancy. So I guess that covers it. So unless there's anything for the good of the transportation, well, I do want to say that we did get a scare about the MTA pulling some lines. That was, we were all caught off guard. It was on the front page, and there was very strong pushback from. Mayor Buckley wrote a letter, and they rescinded that in a few days. But it did brought up the question, why, how, and all that. And I spent some of the weekend looking at all their documentation and their regional plan and made sure that there wasn't any hidden language that there, was in their plan to eliminate these routes. I think it was strictly due to the pandemic, a quick reaction to the pandemic. But when you read these regional reports, they do speak optimistically of having a very healthy regional transit system. And the long-term goal is to have to include Annapolis in some longer routes, et cetera. But it is worrisome. But I don't know if Rick wants to add anything to that. We do get a lot of funding from the MTA to run our buses.
We do get a considerable amount of funding from MTA, and like everyone else, we were concerned about the service cuts that they were proposing. And fortunately, that, as you say, it may not happen now, and that helps not only the city but the region as a whole. So, thank goodness for that.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, as much as I love seeing you guys, I'll see you Saturday. Is there a motion that we adjourn for the night?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Well, thank you for your patience. Maybe we'll have a meeting next month. Thank you, Takia.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Good night.